Welcome to The Inside Story. I'm Billy Hollowell, and on today's show, we're tackling a topic that some people might not know a lot about. It is a dire topic, the subject of sex trafficking and exploitation. Samantha Kamman from the Christian Post is joining us to break down a couple of stories that she's been covering around this subject matter. One involves a Christian woman's fight to shut down Pornhub, and another involves a former OnlyFans recruiter who saw the horrors of what was unfolding and is speaking out now. With no further ado, here is Samantha Kamman to break it all down. Samantha, you have a number of stories that really dig into, child abuse, rape, sex trafficking, and some of these websites, like Pornhub and OnlyFans. And you've been doing this coverage for a while, but I want to talk about two of these pieces in particular. In one of these articles, you cover a girl. Her name is Serena. She was 14 years old when nude images of her were shared to Pornhub. Which is just unimaginable and unbelievable. But take us through a little bit of her story, how that happened, and what you know about it.
So Serena's story is mentioned in Laila Mickelwait's book, Takedown. So yes, Serena was only 14 years old. She had never even kissed a guy before, but this boy she had a crush on convinced her to send him nude photos and videos of herself, which he then proceeded to share with classmates. And to make matters even worse, the content eventually made its way onto Pornhub, where multiple strangers were now able to view it, and just kept getting shared and downloaded again and again. And that had a major impact on Serena.
Well, let's talk about that impact, because these stories are important to understand, right? These individual stories that give us a lens into how damaging this can be. What happened to her as a result of this situation?
So Serena fell into depression and attempted suicide. It was years later that Laila Mickelwait connected with the young woman after Mickelwait had seen the content on Pornhub. And Mickelwait recounts this in her book. And in the interview I did with Mickelwait, she told me how Serena's story could be anyone's child. And that really horrified her and fueled her to just keep fighting against this even more. And she worked with Serena to try and get this content taken down.
I think obviously I'm a parent, and so I hear a story like this, and I have two young girls, and I think,
Mhm.
you want to make sure you're educating kids appropriately and how to use technology and how not to do certain things. Here's this 14-year-old who sends a photo. I'm assuming she thought these images would only be seen by this one person. They get uploaded to this website, which is unimaginable that that was ever even okay and that it could continue to be there. And it has this really detrimental effect on her life. Now, you've mentioned here Laila Mickelwait. Talk a little bit about her work, because she has a new book out and it's called Takedown. Obviously, has been very, very passionate about trying to stop these kinds of incidents. But tell us a little bit about her and her work.
Mickelwait's the founder of the Trafficking Hub movement, which is made up of survivors, people from all kinds of political or religious backgrounds, and the goal is to take down Pornhub. She's an advocate against sexual exploitation and human trafficking, and for years she's been working to expose the illegal content that is on Pornhub.
It's unimaginable that a website could allow this sort of content to be shared. You have an underage girl, right? And she doesn't
Mhm.
want this content being shared. It's being shared. And that's just one example, I assume, of what, Layla is finding in her book. The book Takedown itself, she's obviously writing about some of this. What can you tell us about the book? Can you take us through that and really what you think the aim of that book is?
The book goes through Mickelwait's efforts to expose Pornhub. So it goes through her investigating the content that's on the site. And some of she recounts the book like, this is clearly illegal. This is clearly abuse, or this is rape. And she goes through some of the strategies for hitting the company where it hurts. By putting pressure on credit card companies to cut ties with Pornhub. And then she also talks about some of the threats she and her family received. There was this man that she was talking to, who's a lawyer, I believe, who had frequently fought against MindGeek, which is the former name of Pornhub's parent company. It's now ALO, but said how you need to make sure all your technological devices are secured, because one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to maybe try and hack into your computer and plant child porn there, so then they can get you prosecuted. He's like, they fight dirty, so you need to be really careful. But that didn't stop her, and she opens up with readers about how, yeah, there were moments where things just became so tense and emotional. I mean, you're looking through all this content of these young girls, sometimes really, really young, vulnerable children, just being abused or exposed to sexual violence. But she kept going, and her faith in God kept her grounded, and the wisdom she received from her late father, who just always urged her to keep trying.
You know, you look at a story like that, it takes a lot of boldness to take on a massive company that has so much power and sway. And you've mentioned a couple of the claims here, but let's just break them down here so people understand, because some might be saying, okay, well, there's one example here, you know, is that a one-off? What are her biggest claims against Pornhub that she details not only in the book, but in her work more generally?
Mhm. So one of the things that she makes clear in the book is she's not going after legal porn that's done with consensual adults. She is specifically targeting content of, say, minors. So in the book, she talks about how, no, you can clearly tell this is a young child, or there will be these videos of women tied down to the bed, clearly struggling, crying, not wanting this. She connected with, as she her platform grew bigger, victims would reach out to her and be saying things like, "I've been trying for years to get this taken down. I was raped. Uh, my abuser uploaded this content to Pornhub. I can't get it down." So that's been a major part of her work, is trying to expose how Pornhub is knowingly profiting from sex trafficking, abuse, sexual violence, and they're distributing and monetizing these videos for everyone to see.
So her work itself, right? She's out there, she's doing this. It's not easy work. How are her efforts, in your view, making a difference?
She's worked with high profile journalists like Nicholas Kristof. I'm sure you'll recall he wrote that New York Times op ed in 2020 that broke down some of the content on Pornhub, highlighting those videos that were depicting uh, the things that we were talking about, the sexual violence and abuse. And one of the things that the book shows is that Pornhub has faced a reckoning. I think more people in the public are aware of the type of stuff that's on there now. But Mickelwait has said how she and many advocates and victims are still waiting for justice to truly be served.
Wow. Yeah, it is a heavy, heavy topic, and a lot of people's lives being impacted, like Serena's. Who now? I want to just shift gears here because you also did a really interesting interview surrounding somebody who used to work with OnlyFans. Her name is Victoria Sinis. Tell me a little bit about her story, and you know she was there working at the site, no longer is. So take us through that.
So, yes, she used to be a recruiter for OnlyFans, a site that on the surface it seems empowering because it seems like, oh, well, women can control the type of content they post, and it's for subscribers who pay a monthly fee. They must be making a decent amount of money. And that's what Victoria thought as well. Like, oh, this must be a positive. And she had a background in marketing and startup. So when a friend approached her in 2022 about starting an OnlyFans agency, I mean, she didn't really know much about it. She's like, well, I've never really even watched porn before. So that wasn't her reason for getting into it. She just thought, oh, well, this seems like an empowering thing, and girls can put whatever they want on there, just put a picture of their feet. But that turned out to not be the case.
Wow. And, you know, when you look at her story and, you know, what she's up to now, take us through everything she is doing now to sort of expose what she experienced.
So, things that she told me would happen with the site is subscribers would request women to send photos of themselves in very compromising positions. A couple instances that she said really stuck out to her where the subscriber asked a woman to wear a certain type of sandal and pop balloons with her feet, which she's like, okay, that just seems like a joke and something silly at first. But then she realized, no, someone is getting aroused by asking a woman to do this. And another one asked that a woman make it look like she was dangling from a ledge, and then have another woman look like she's crushing that woman's fingers. And Victoria realized, okay, subscribers can make these women do anything they want to satisfy their own desires. And many of these women are doing it because they need to feel validated, or they thought this is the only thing that they're good at doing. And Victoria later found herself going to church, reconnecting with her faith. She ended up meeting.
Up, Samantha, can you unmute yourself? Sorry about that. Can you?
So sorry. what meat
No,
pie.
that was not your fault, actually. That was really weird. You didn't do that. I think somehow it happened on my end, but I don't know. Sorry about that. You, I have you saying she ended up going to church. So you could just pick up right there.
She ended up going to church. She happened to meet this woman who was involved with this anti sexual exploitation group, Collective Shout, and Victoria was able to leave OnlyFans.
See, that's incredible. And I love those stories of somebody who they find themselves either willingly or they sort of stumble into a position that is not a good place to be. They find faith, they change their
Mhm.
life. They not only leave behind that lifestyle, but they then explain to others why others should leave that lifestyle
Mhm.
behind. They sort of expose behind the curtain what is going on. And so we're going to have links to both of these stories in the show notes so people can go and they can read them. Samantha, as always, I really appreciate you breaking these topics down. These are incredibly important topics for us to be covering. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure.
Everyone else, make sure you head on over to the Christian Post for more content just like this and for daily news. We will see you again next week on another episode of The Inside Story.